Welcome to Headlocks, Heels, and Havoc, the wildest mixed tag team in podcasting where the kayfabe drops and the chaos takes over. Let's ring the damn bell.
Headlock tight, heels on the prowl, dropping elbows, hearing growl, feel the foul. No script here, just real, no bluff. Kayfabe crack, now the dirt gets rough. Headlocks, heels, havoc in the zone. Stepping in the ring, chaos at your home. No filters, no mask, just raw bare tone. Wrestling unscripted, we on the throne. Title belts, mic checks, crowd going crazy. Drop truth bombs, leaving lines feeling hazy. Beyond the kayfabe, past the charade, where legends are born and stories get made. Headlocks popping, who's hitting the mat? Welcome to the havoc where the real talk's at. Tune in, step through, leave the fake at the door. Headlocks, heels, havoc, now hear the roar.
Welcome, everybody, to Headlocks, Heels, and Havoc, Wrestling Unscripted. I, of course, am one of your triple threat of, I guess, tag team terror. The legend, J-Mac. With me, as always, is the red, white, and bruised Uncle Slam.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And the first lady of podcasting, the Vipress.
Hi, everyone.
Alrighty, today we are going to be talking about the greatest factions of all time, and this is totally, I'm assuming we're going just opinionated on this one, or are we going based on, like, popularity of everybody else?
Let's go on opinion.
I say we go on opinions.
I think, opinion is the best way because I think a lot of this is kind of subjective,
Some are forgotten about.
because
Well, that's wrestling.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
like when you scan as many different wrestling organizations, because you can say there's certain people that had belts in WWE, some had WCW, some also had some in New Japan, some had ECW, some Ohio Valley. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
like when you start counting them up, say like people like Ric Flair and shit, like you can go on and on.
Oh, that's what I love about wrestling, and why wrestling will always be one of the greatest things to debate, and even over like basketball or football or anything, because you can personally hate somebody like Tom Brady, but there's no doubting he's the GOAT.
But you have no other reason to hate him.
Just had to throw that in there, didn't I? Just
I
had
mean,
to throw that in
I'm
there,
just
huh?
making a point, so there's really no
Hold on a second,
debating
I'm getting
that.
hot.
He
But-
said I'm getting cut out.
As he takes off his hoodie and he's got his Philadelphia Eagles jersey.
What'd you say, sir? I'm sorry.
I don't
The
know.
world champion Eagles here?
That's the wrong color green, man. It needs to be more Celtic green.
No. No, I
Oh
think
my
we're all right
goodness.
over here.
But no, I mean, that's what makes wrestling so great, is that it's so subjective and there's so many, anybody could be really considered, well, I won't
Hated or
say
loved.
anybody. Nobody's going to mistake Barry Horowitz for the greatest of all time. But as far as jobbers go, yeah, Barry Horowitz is probably my favorite jobber of all time. But I mean, it's so subjective. People can come up with anything that they want to, and come up with any good reason
Come up with a
of
reason to
why
like you or a
somebody.
reason to hate you. It doesn't
Yes.
even matter.
So it's just about who you like, who you don't like, and that's why wrestling's so great. Is that it's just it's fan based. Period.
Who would be your, let's say, top 5, or you can go Mount Rushmore as far as factions or whatever? I mean,
Mount Rushmore factions.
I mean, we can go 4 or you can go 5 if it's easier and shit as far as factions.
I'm gonna go 5,
All right.
and of course my favorite of all time is, well, I'm gonna go from 5 to 1. So my 5th is
This is least favorite, right?
Well, no,
to
the
favorite.
least favorite to favorite.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Heenan family.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Bobby Heenan was just great. Now watching wrestling afterwards and stuff and everything, I love him to death. But at the time, I couldn't stand him, and that just goes to show you how great he was. And then, of course, all the legends he had underneath him, as far as Henning and
Andre.
Andre,
Mm-hmm.
Stud, Bundy, Harley Race,
Mr. Perfect too.
Mr. Perfect. Rick Rude.
Yo, yeah.
I mean, it's a laundry list of everybody I mean, and even going back to like the AWA, the man had Nick Bockwinkel, the greatest AWA champion ever. So I mean, the man had just great talent that he managed all the time. And then of course there's Haku. You can't say anything bad about him, or he'll
One
come,
of my personal favorites.
right. He'll come to you and chop you in your dreams, and you don't want that either.
Probably one of the scariest men out there in real life. Like if I'm going to a bar fight, that's who I want with me.
Right, him and Harley Race. Well,
Mm-hmm.
not now. Harley Race passed away, unfortunately. But
R.I.P.
back in the day. But so my fourth, this one's a little bit different, but I love this group. I think it doesn't get enough praise. It's starting to because of Heyman being in the spotlight so much now. But the Dangerous Alliance. I mean, that had so much talent from head to toe with Rude, Austin, Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, and beautiful Bobby Eaton. I mean, that was tag team singles gold all the way around. And that's why they had a lot of tag team and singles gold. But then, of course, after that, I got the classic, the Horsemen. There was just, to me, they were the originals.
They were.
That faction that just stuck together, like their old saying was, it's not about who's wearing the gold as long as we're wearing all the gold.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was just that mindset. And plus, you couldn't turn around without getting punched by all of them at the same time. And then, of course, NWO. I mean, they speak for themselves.
Self-explanatory.
Just everything that they did for the business as far as the reality they brought to it. And, made it seem like a real invasion as compared to the WCW invasion of WWE later on. But then my favorite, and the only reason it's really my favorite is because it's got my favorite wrestler of all time, and that's Shawn Michaels, and that's DX. I mean, they took what the NWO was doing and
Ran with it.
And got a little bit more risque with it, I guess is the best way to say it.
I kind of figured you might go the Click on that one, but I can see.
Well, but the Click was never really an on-screen group. It was more of just the behind the scenes. Now, if you want to go like that, what is it? The group that the Undertaker had, the Bone Street Thugs or BSK. Yeah, the BSK group had like Yokozuna and all them in it and everything. Man, now that's a group you watch walk into a bar and I'm just paying my tab and leaving because something's going to happen tonight and I don't need to be underneath any of that. But yeah, so what about you, Vipers? What's your list?
This isn't necessarily a list that's like my favorite of all time, I guess, because the majority of people have the same favorites faction-wise, because there's not very many really. There's not been really many significant ones, but the ones that were like significant in my time, definitely the Four Horsewomen. Definitely Four Horsewomen. I think that they really is what started to turn women's wrestling into like more athletic.
Greatest women's faction of all time so far.
Absolutely, I agree with that, and I think it's sad that we don't have more women factions now. The Bloodline. The current, not the current Bloodline. I mean the Bloodline when Roman Reigns was title holder and
The original.
the
Okay.
original
Okay.
Bloodline.
like before they split.
They literally held every bit of everything. They held everything.
This is true.
They ruled WWE for 3 years before something happened, and it was crazy. The Wyatt family, I feel like the Wyatt family is, yes, they're still talked about. I feel like I hate that they're not doing anything with the Wyatt Six now, but I think the Wyatt family horror storylines was really good.
I think they made a mistake breaking up the Wyatt family too quick.
I think I do too.
I think they should
I
have
do
left
too.
it alone. Because when they tried to make the, what were they called? When they tried to break Harper and Rowan away. The Bludgeon Brothers.
The Bludgeon
That
Brothers,
was
yes.
stupid.
I didn't like that. I didn't like it either. I
Like-
really didn't.
Look up the word bludgeon. It just means they're going to beat you up. We're the beat you up brothers.
Mhm.
It's like, what? And then we're going to dress like weird Vikings, but we're going to be the beat you up brothers. Like, why not just let them be the Wyatt family? Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. And,
hmm
sorry.
No, you're
no,
fine.
No, you're good.
Next one would be like the Shield. Shield was the one that it literally skyrocketed three men's careers for the rest of their life, and now they're three of the biggest superstars in the world. And without, I feel like they just when they came in and they destroyed everything, and you didn't know what was happening, and it just like complete and utter chaos.
I like Mox, but I don't know that he's all there.
He has a lot
Because,
of
I
problems.
mean,
Blood
man,
is
I
hard.
watched that man get stabbed in the head with a bunch of spaghetti. And it was sticking out of his head. Like, I'm not joking.
Yeah,
Like, the
he's
dude.
done a lot of crazy things.
In
dude-
wrestling?
Yes,
Yes.
the dude, Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
Mr.
I love Dean
Ambrose, now
Ambrose.
he's
I
Jon
think
Moxley.
that he's
Yeah.
a great wrestler.
He was in a match, and somebody took a handful of spaghetti and stabbed him right in the forehead and, like, let go of it. And he's just walking around. He's got this big spray looking like
That's
a porcupine thing. It was terrible. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I think the most significant one for me, like my most top favorite probably is the Straight Edge Society.
Oh,
Now
okay,
nowadays
okay.
I am not a fan of CM Punk. I'm sorry. I'm a original Punk fan. I love back whenever he had his original song. I don't like this whole cult of personality crap
So-
that he's pulling.
Are you talking about pre WWE, like ECW era?
Yeah, like
Okay, okay.
ECW
Okay.
era going into WWE when
Alright.
ECW was phased out. I
Mhm.
loved the idea of Punk. I loved the idea of the Straight Edge Society. I'm big into cults. I think it's weird. I find them fascinating. So with Straight Edge Society and it being like cult-like, it was just fascinating to me that they were pulling people out of the crowd. And at the time, I thought it was real.
Right.
Yeah.
I was, so, me being who I was at the time, like, dude, and they brought this chick and put her in the middle of this ring and shaved her bald. Shaved her bald for
She's
this.
like, "What's
and
wrong
it's
with
a,
these people?"
It's a legit cult. And I feel like that one was the one that changed me the most because it was just so fascinating how it was like so godlike.
So I have to ask, because like I'm guessing this is a period whenever I was kind of absent. So who all was in the Straight Edge Society?
So it was CM Punk, and it was Paul Heyman, and it was. I thought it was Big E, but when I went back to look
What is the
on
Godfather? I want to say the Godfather had converted and became straight edge and stuff too. Or something
it was.
like
Who was the other person? There was one other person that was in
No,
it.
he was part of the Right to Censor.
that. Oh, okay. My
Yeah.
bad.
But they
No,
like
Stevie Richards.
it kind of but they were, how CM Punk is. He's always talking about
So that was Punk's association with Heyman.
yes, that's the
Okay.
original. Well,
Okay.
not the original. That's just what they came up with beforehand.
Right.
Him and Punk actually met in Louisville,
Yeah.
and
Well, 'cause
that's where
the
they
original
hit it off.
Heyman guy was the Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah,
Rick Rude. Well, even
it-
Undertaker was the original Heyman guy before Rick Rude.
it was Luke Gallows was the other one.
Okay.
Okay, I
That
remember
was
Luke Gallows.
the big muscle for that
Yeah.
group. But like to see how people were just gravitating toward it and just in awe of everything, and it was just so crazy to see all of it. But that would probably be the most significant one in my head for me was Straight Edge Society.
So tell me, like, because like there's so many like honorable mentions. You know
Oh,
what
yeah.
I'm saying? There's just so many. And like I said, whenever I went looking for info on all this and just study up on it, like it was only pulling a bunch of stuff up from like the obvious ones like the Horsemen and DX and NWO stuff like that and everything. But like I got people forget about the Freebirds,
Mm-hmm.
the Von Erichs. There was
The Heart Foundation.
the Heart Foundation.
I think that's just those are just a little before most people's times and
the
stuff.
Ministry of Darkness. You know what I'm saying? That was
Mhm.
the. But I feel like the Ministry of Darkness kind of got NWO-ish for a minute, where just everybody was becoming a member.
Well, I think like once they merged with the corporation, that's when it got a little
Yeah.
too many people because there was just way too many on there or whatever.
Yeah,
Like-
like Nexus. When Nexus took over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Nexus took over. It was almost like pre-Shield, I believe. It was like the first Shield. They came in destroying everything, thinking that they were gonna turn everything into, their. They wanted to fix wrestling.
Right. Well, and it's like people forget that like the NWO wasn't an original idea here in the States. It was literally an offshoot of a faction
Mm-hmm.
over in Japan.
Yeah.
You
yes,
know.
man.
So, what's your top 5, Josh?
Let's see. My top 5, like I said, I'm old school, so and I don't want to put this in probably any like particular order. I'm gonna go with probably the obvious, which is gonna be like the NWO. Um, you know, the white and the black, and the red and black or whatever. I mean, obviously they've pretty much changed wrestling. I mean, they, between DX and them, made it mainstream. They made people want to watch. It changed the way people look, especially, when Hogan became a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So they obviously have to be taught. I would say they'd have to be my number one. Four Horsemen, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I mean, because they've spanned a while. I mean, there's been so many members, iterations of it. I mean, you gotta, you can go, AAA, you can go Ole, you can go Ric Flair.
Side question.
What?
Greatest version of the Four Horsemen. We won't get into a big debate about it.
I'm
but
old school, so
I'm just curious.
I'm going to say, Double A, Ole Anderson, Ric Flair, and probably Barry Windham or something like that.
Tully was there then.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, those are like I
So
said,
you like the Wrecking Crew
yeah,
as the tag team.
yeah.
See, I always liked Tully and Arn as the tag team, and then Barry and Rick. I always thought that was the greatest iteration of them.
But like I said, there's been so many, and
Right.
they've tried to bring
It's
them
hard
back
to go
like so
wrong.
many times. Like I said, I mean, I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
I mean, I'm sure they'd like to forget the Paul Roma era, but yeah.
True. Of course, but the only bad thing with those were they were mostly on WCW. So like, unless like if you were a WWE fan, you really wasn't gonna like them that much because they
Right.
wasn't really what you watched or whatever. But to me, like I said, I mean, every time I see Four Fingers, that's what I think
Right.
of and shit. I see Double A.
Right?
You know what I'm saying?
Double A shooting up
Yeah,
that floor.
hell yeah, always and shit.
And see, that's another thing too. Is I think, like you were saying too, is with the territories back then, you really had to know when the certain company's show was going to be on in your territory, if you were even going to be able to get that show. You know what I mean? We were kind of lucky here in Kentucky because we got that flow over from New York and that flow over from the Southern
Yeah.
Carolinas and everything like that, and a little bit from that St. Louis region. You know what I'm saying? Every now and then.
Let's see. My next one would probably have to be the Hart Foundation. I've always been a big
Great.
Bret Hart fan. Him and Jen the Neihart or whatever, Owen Hart, Davey Boy Smith. I mean, they were all pretty much family. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I mean, and their father trained so many people. They're I mean, they're a classic wrestling family. You know.
But
what
did
I'm
you
saying?
know with Brett it's somebody else's fault?
Whatever. I ain't trying to hear that.
We need to have a whole episode on that.
Well, I don't even want to tell you. I don't
Just
even want to
saying.
go there. For all these damn Shawn Michael fans over here, whatever. Anyway, Like I said, I mean the Hart Foundation likes that, and plus Owen Hart, I think he could have been a star. Like
He
if
would've
his
been great.
unfortunate death, I mean, he left for a little bit, came back as what the
Blue Blazer
Blue Blazer.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta love that.
revived that whole stupid gimmick from
Yeah.
WrestleMania 5.
But like I said, at one point, they had every belt. They, you know what I'm saying, they had the tag, they had the
Yeah.
Intercontinental, they had the Hard, they had the World Heavyweight Championship belt.
European Championships.
Yeah. So I mean, they've always been one of my favorite. And plus, like when you see them in like Survivor Series matches and stuff like that.
Well, they had good trained
them in a
wrestlers.
flat
Yeah,
all
chemistry.
three.
Yeah, like I said, and they were fundamentally sound and
Yeah.
shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they knew the basics and
Yep.
stuff. I would probably go next. DX, obviously. Like I said, I mean, which when you're talking about can depend on which one you like. Are we talking about the one with Shawn Michaels and Triple H with China, or are we talking about the one with Road Dogg, China and Triple H? Either one, love them all. Like I said, I really couldn't go wrong with either one or whatever.
It's one of those factions that kind of transcends the members.
But yeah, but like I said, I would always go with DX just because I mean they were hilarious. I mean, like I said, I mean they pushed the boundaries and their shit was funny. I mean, one of my favorites was like when they spoofed the Nation of Domination. I mean,
the Croc.
and then they're all painted brown and shit.
The road dog walking up all the time. Yeah, baby, I'm done, baby, I'm done.
Their
Yeah,
impressions
baby.
were second to none.
And then just walking. What was it? One of them ended up hitting him or something.
But
And then when they done Shane and Vince too, and finally Triple H got tired of dealing with Shawn, running up saying, "Yeah, baby, he's right, yeah, baby." He sat there and hit Shawn and knocked him out and everything.
But I mean, like some of theirs, it's just classic. I mean, classic. And then when you think about, like Monday Night Raw, I mean, you think about DX going against WCW.
Windshield wipers with Sergeant Slaughter.
I mean, like I said, so DX is, it's got to be probably right up there. So that's 4 right there.
Right.
All right, let's see who I got left here. Kind of hard. I would probably go the Nation of Domination, just because they spawned The Rock, Mark Henry.
It's
You
such
got
a short-lived faction. It
Yeah,
did
it really
spawn
was.
a lot of
Farouk
people.
or whatever, or Ron Simmons.
Well, he
whatever
was
you wanna call
already.
it.
He was there just to kind of get those other guys over to help.
Well, like but like he was the leader
Right.
until The Rock came and kind of took over and shit. But like I said, as far as and The Rock's promos, because that was kind of catapulted The Rock. That's once he became kind of like the bad guy and he got out of the Rocky Maivia bullshit.
Yeah.
That's when he changed. He dropped the Rocky Maivia, just became The Rock, and then his whole
Oh yeah. That's
just,
when it took
you
off.
know,
Changed.
just changed and stuff.
I was watching one of the Nation's little promos that they were doing the other day, and Farouk was sitting there talking. I wish they'd have changed his name back to Ron Simmons too. I hated the name Farouk, but Farouk was sitting there talking and everything. And if you look over and watch The Rock's sitting there looking at him going. Making fun, and then you could see The Rock's personality starting to come out there. And when it did, it spawned so much. I mean, I love D'Lo. I don't want to say I think D'Lo should have been like a world champion, but I think D'Lo could have had a few more memorable runs as
What's
an
the highest he got
Intercontinental?
with like Intercontinental, like
yeah.
European, maybe
European and stuff like that. Which, I mean, he got a lot of tag team titles and stuff and everything. I mean, he's pretty decorated and everything. I just think he could have got a better significant run.
Yeah, better push. But they also had people like Crush.
Oh, yeah.
They had the
I had forgotten about Crush being in
the
Nation.
Godfather,
Yeah.
Ahmed Johnson,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Lord, I've heard stories about Ahmed. Man,
Oh.
they say he was one of the worst wrestlers.
well, that'll
ever.
be a different episode.
Yes.
But I would love to do an
Oh,
episode
yeah.
on the worst, on the supposed
Yes.
worst wrestler, which is of course the Pin Nation.
Lord, Warrior be on there. What
God.
Bobby Heenan said, he said, "Man, he just looked like he walked out of a gym with a can of tuna in his hand, saw a WWF truck go by, and said, I think I'm gonna be a wrestler."
Goodness.
So like,
Uh,
okay, so these are our lists, but like, who would you all say if you had to narrow it down to the one faction that you just wish could have stayed, been there, never really changed, because there was a time when they were just great. You didn't want it to change because they were so entertaining. Everything they were doing, blah blah blah. Who is that one faction for you all that just is a head and shoulders above everybody else?
well, I feel like the top two choices, of course, are going to be the NWO and DX. Now, in just my opinion, like I said, I mean, they're I say flagship, as far as factions, when you think about, wrestling, and, besides the Four Horsemen.
Especially old school.
Yeah, yeah. Old school, I would say the Four Horsemen, but like I said, if I'm I would probably say those two. But it's almost hard to pick between them because they both had so many great moments. And
See, if I'm gonna go personal favorite, I gotta go with Dangerous Alliance. Like, even as much as I love DX and the NWO and everything, I don't know why there was just so much. Like, when Flair left WCW, and it was in so much flux of who was going to take over as that big bad guy and everything, and then they got Rude to come in and everything, and he beat Sting for the U.S. title. Started their little rivalry and stuff and everything, and then they formed the Dangerous Alliance. I was like, okay, this is going to be a good filler for. At first, I thought, okay, they're trying to replicate the Four Horsemen, and it's just not going to work. But the more it went along, I was like, this is really good, because Arn Anderson knew what he was doing as a tag team wrestler. So Bobby Eaton, probably the greatest tag team wrestler of all time. And then, Zabisco's a proven veteran that just doesn't like to bump. Go back and watch Zabisco's matches. You never see him hit the ground. He'll fall back 50 times, fall backwards 50 times, but he don't ever fall down. But, and then, of course, Austin and Rude, I mean, there was just so much right there that I think had WCW really capitalized on that group, they could have caused an NWO-like takeover, even back in like 92 or whenever it, took place. So what about you? What as far as
I think the Wyatt family. I go more on Wyatt family, Wyatt family, and then the new faction of Wyatt Six. I think that storyline wise, I'm in it for stories.
Right.
I like the soap opera part of it for the most part. That is my thing. I love watching the stories. I love seeing how they unfold. Love getting deep into it. I think that, unfortunately, with Bray's untimely death, and it was probably the saddest death in wrestling that I've ever experienced personally.
very
But
unexpected.
it was very I will be honest, I cried for a little bit for that one because
So
I
was
felt
Luke
so bad
Harper's.
for his wife and his kids. But
Luke
he
Harper's
was
too.
yeah, he was such a talent and such, like, his storytelling was undeniable.
Oh, yeah.
It was so in your face, but it draws you so into it. It's just insane the amount of theatrics and thought that went into it. And even now, I mean, I feel like WWE is currently dropping the ball with the Wyatt Six, personally, I think. But
I do too, but I think that
there's probably more to that than what we all know.
Well, I think as far as fans, though, fans aren't going to buy it. And I hate to say that because it was a nice gesture and it would have been cool if it would have worked, but it just wasn't. It's not Bray Wyatt doing it. You know
I
what I
get
mean?
that.
And it's kind of like, you can't have the Four Horsemen without Ric Flair.
so do do you think they're not doing anything with him out of respect for him, or just
I think
because you
there's
don't
medical
think,
reasons. I think somebody's injured.
or do you think there's, like something behind the scenes
I
as far
think
as
they don't know
politics,
what to do.
or just the story's kind of died or it's run its course, or you don't think it's believable?
If you want me to be honest, I think that, and this will probably make you happy, I think that Aleister Black was brought in to become the new leader of the Wyatt Six.
I thought Alistair might be doing something with Karrion Cross.
I can see that happening too, but I think Cross is becoming too much of a fan favorite.
I love him.
He's
I
getting
love him.
over, and he's not even really in the ring much.
No, his promos online
Yes.
are amazing.
And it's hilarious. But he's good, and he's just not being used right.
Yeah.
But I think that Aleister Black was brought in because it wouldn't surprise me if a couple of people from the Wyatt Six do end up getting cut, like maybe Gacy and Loomis.
I hope not, because they're actually really good wrestlers.
I think Gacy is. I don't.
Loomis, I love Loomis's like
His look, and
demeanor
stuff.
and stuff. Like he's so creepy, and he comes out from under the ring like no other.
I
It
think
creeps me
Loomis
out.
would have been better with Gunther, with that
I-
kind of German look and everything, where he
Yeah.
had the mustache and blonde hair. Kind of,
Mhm.
I think that would have been like. But see, I think that's why the whole Imperium thing is kind of going away, because they don't really want to go for that, like, Nazi German-esque type
Type thing,
character.
yeah.
And I think that's what it was looking like, even with without the uniforms
Yeah.
and stuff. You got Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther. You know what I'm saying? And they're all standing out there talking. I don't
Well,
think it's what
politically, that's not what's going on in the world.
right.
That's
And
why you have every other storyline now. So we're going to
Right.
fade that out and put in a new faction.
And I think that's what I think he would have been fit better. But to get
Yeah.
back to the Wyatts, I think if they bring Alistair in to lead them, I think they could possibly save.
But it wouldn't be the Wyatt Six, though. It wouldn't be based off of, Bray Wyatt, unfortunately.
I'm wondering
I
if
don't
there
know what
was
they're gonna
any
do with it.
connection between Alistair and Bray outside of wrestling or anything, or anywhere down the line or anything
I
like
don't know.
that.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? He could be. They may just change it completely, and just said, hey, this is just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? We gave a little time to him and everything to recognize him, but now it's time to move on. It's we business has got to resume.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. I just like a horror faction or a horror storyline. They're just really some of them are really really intricately done.
I wish. See, and that's another thing you were talking about, his mind and his creativity.
Yes,
Like,
there wasn't
just-
anything else like it.
Well, listening to him and then watching that Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert episode on Dark Side of the Ring,
Mm-hmm.
like, Eddie Gilbert didn't want to be a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
He was good at it, and I didn't know it, but like they were actually talking about WWF was talking about making him world champion before they went in another direction of Hulk Hogan. Like Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert was wrestling in the WWF before Hogan and stuff and everything during
shit.
that little era. But they ended up going another direction. He was in a bad car wreck, and he ended up going to like the NWA and stuff and everything, became Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, blah, blah, blah. And because he was wrestling with his dad, Tommy Gilbert, and then they ended up, his brother's a wrestler too, Doug Gilbert. I didn't know all that, but they were just talking about how, like, in storylines, he knew the curve, like miles before anybody else could see the curve coming. And it was like he told who was it? Jim Cornette. He told him, and this kind of plays in because he had a pretty famous faction, which was Hot Stuff and Hyatt International, which had Sting and Rick Steiner, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. There was a few big names in it, but he went down to Smoky Mountain Wrestling and wrestled one match with Jim Cornette. And Jim Cornette told him, "Hey, man, come on back. We want to do some stuff with you and everything." And he was like, "Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm going to go to Puerto Rico." And it was like, "Why?" He said, "Because they're offering me a booking job." He didn't want to be in the ring. He wanted to book. And he just had that kind of a mind and everything. And Jim Cornette said, of course, that's the last time he ever saw Eddie Gilbert because he ended up passing away. But I was just like, that's crazy, that, people with the minds like that, it's like we've lost a lot of them so quick. And they had the ability to, whether they had the ability in the ring, they had the ability to lead a faction and help get those other people in that faction over.
Yeah.
Like Ron Simmons. Mm-hmm. Ron Simmons was at the end of his career, during the Nation run and everything. Luckily, he got thrown into a tag team after that extended his career a little bit longer.
APA.
Yeah. And, but at that time, his job was to be the leader on screen and in the locker room, get D-Lo and The Rock and Mark Henry and The Godfather and all that. Well, The Godfather was kind of over already.
Yeah.
Because he had been around for about 10, 15 years and everything by that. Well, I don't want to say 15. A good amount of time. But, so, I mean, it's not all necessarily about just being the leader as far as in the ring. You got to be able to get the other talent over, too, in a faction. Because
it's not just about one person. It's about the entire group.
It's easy for Ric Flair to stand out there for 15 minutes and talk about himself. But can he get Arn Anderson over? Could he get, it's
right.
You gotta say good things about the people behind you too. If you're in the forefront, that way everybody's over, the faction's over. And
well, like Evolution,
right?
Same thing with Ric Flair. Like that, Evolution's what started Randy Orton and Batista's career. Yep. Without Evolution, I don't think Randy Orton or Batista would have gotten to the point where they did.
I don't think they would have as quick.
Not as quick. I mean, Randy Orton for sure probably would have been something, but Batista maybe not because he was struggling with his character at the time.
Yeah, and what was it, Deacon Batista?
Yeah, something like that. He was struggling with trying to, evolve his character, and then once, Triple H and Ric Flair decided, hey, we need to do this, and invited him on, it really changed his character development throughout his career.
I think they soaked up a lot of game from him, actually. I think you take all the years of experience with Ric Flair and Triple H and Randy Orton and them, and Batista was like, you can't go wrong. I mean, you can't not learn anything from them, unless you just refuse to.
That's it.
Because there's just too much talent,
Absolutely.
know what I'm saying? There's too much wisdom there and shit.
You got the old school and the old ways in Ric Flair, and you got the modern way of doing things and the now in Triple H teaching you. So, yeah, how can you go wrong?
And then the future of it, yeah.
Right. Well, I think their motto was a past, present, and future.
Yes.
You had Ric Flair was the past, you had Triple H was the present, and then the future was Randy Orton and Batista.
Yeah. But what I love more about it, leading off to that, is, Randy Orton went off to do his own, called Legacy. Mm-hmm. He had Legacy where it was him and Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr.
Yep, all the second generation.
And honestly and truthfully, I think that could have been a really good concept, really good idea. I think they needed one more person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know necessarily who at the time, but I think they needed one more person to round that whole
group out.
Second generation group out. But that Legacy was one.
Legacy was a good one.
I think it could have been better than what it was. It was good, but I think it could have been a whole lot better. I think Legacy could have, in terms of NWO Horseman style, Evolution style, it could have ruled the roost for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Speaking of some lesser known ones, what lesser known ones do you think about that a lot of people probably forgot about or probably don't get as much talked about or their flowers like they should or whatever? Because I know I got a couple that I'm thinking about, and I know you probably got some.
Well, I got my trivia for you on this faction stuff and everything, so I want to see if you know this.
All right.
Who are the original members? I don't know all of them, but who are the original members of the Legion of Doom?
Oh, I looked that up earlier today, too.
The original members.
of the Legion of Doom.
It was definitely.
I want to say just
Undertaker
Hawk and Animal, but obviously that's not right, is it?
I mean, that's what you would think the
yeah,
obvious
yeah,
answer
yeah,
would
yeah. Are we like counting their manager too, or are we saying no
be.
manager?
Yeah, all members.
Like we're not counting the fake one, are we? Or original?
The NWA version, Legion of Doom.
I'm gonna have to stick with the answer I got, just because I can't think of anybody offhand. I mean, to be honest.
Well, since she's cheating and looking it up, I'm
Because
not.
I
No,
don't
I'm just
know.
joking.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm just
There's nothing
joking
wrong
with
with
you.
Well, I had looked it up
Right.
earlier and I don't even remember.
It's a little bit old school for you, mid '80s. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the answer. This is the people that I know of: Hawk,
Mm.
Animal, Paul Ellering, the manager of the
Mm.
Road Warriors,
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy,
What?
and Jake the Snake Roberts.
What?
I don't know
When?
those names.
That was the Legion of Doom in NWA.
What? No.
And if I'm not mistaken, Buzz Sawyer was also a member.
Damn. I did not know that.
The
I did
Road
not-
Warriors were members of the Legion of Doom. When they came to the WWF, they used the name Legion of
okay,
Doom because they
okay,
couldn't
okay.
use Road Warriors. I guess NWA or
Yeah,
whoever
yeah.
didn't keep the trademark on the Legion of Doom or whatever.
Well, it started out at Georgia Championship Wrestling in 1983.
Yeah.
And then came all the way from there. There's been multiple different, you know.
Who all were the members besides Jake the Snake and?
Well, that doesn't
Bundy.
even say Jake the Snake in this one.
Oh, it doesn't.
It does not. I mean, unless it, like, if you go down through here. Oh, it says, like, or no, they had a feud with the Hart Foundation and stuff like that. But, like, at the top of it, it says, like, Road Warrior Hawk, Road Warrior Animal, Power Warrior,
Draws.
Heinrich,
Draws, yeah. I remember.
Draws, Paul Ellering, Sonny as a valet, and Christy Hemme as a valet.
See, that's got the WWF version.
But I mean, they was like in Georgia Championship Wrestling, American Wrestling Association, Japanese promotions.
Yeah, see, it's
I mean,
associating
it
those.
literally has a long history.
It's-
WWF.
That's what it's doing. It's associating Legion of Doom with the Road Warriors because Sonny and them weren't in the NWA or NWA, the AWA, or Georgia Championship.
Yeah.
So it's taking it from where they were modern day
Right.
members of. Let's see, who were the original members of the Legion of Doom? Besides,
I don't know if it takes me back to Paul Ellering being
Roberts.
released a couple months ago.
let's see. Okay, so here we got the full list. The original Legion of Doom members or candidates at various times included the Road Warriors, Jake Roberts, Matt Bourne, better known as anybody? Matt Bourne, better known
I
as
don't know. I just know Evan Bourne.
Big Josh in WCW, the Lumberjack. Remember
Oh.
him? And also known as Doink the Clown in the
Oh,
WWE.
Doink.
Yep. Arn Anderson was a member of the Legion of Doom. The Spoiler, King Kong Bundy, Adrian Street, the Iron Sheik, and the Original Sheik. These were all members of the original Legion of
I did
Doom.
not know that. Like I said, but that
They have
might
a
be-
longer history than I realized, actually.
Yeah, that was a little before my time. I think that's probably before I was.
That was like right around the time I was coming into wrestling, because what was it, like you said, it was like 83?
I think it's at 82, 83.
Yeah, so that was around 83, 84 is whenever Hogan was taking over.
Mhm.
So that was about the time I was breaking into wrestling, so I wasn't paying attention to the NWA because once I seen Hogan, it was all WWF for me.
Mhm.
I didn't know anything else existed until I seen NWA on TV one morning. I was like, what is this, man? And then it was bad too because they were in the little arenas, and I was like, man, this is generic wrestling. I was like, this is bad. This
Oh,
is terrible.
Talking about other significant ones, New Day. I mean, I know now they're only a tag team, but they were a faction at one point in time with Big E being
Oh,
there. You know, they hold the most tag team titles in history. I'm pretty sure.
Oh damn.
I know it's got to be close between them and Harlem Heat. Or no, is it the Dudleys?
It's the Dudleys. I think the
I
Dudleys
was
hold
gonna say the
14, but
Dudleys.
New Day holds 17.
Harlem Heat is the all time in WCW.
Yeah,
is what
probably
it is.
so.
Yeah.
Speaking of WCW, like, do you remember back in the day they had a clique called the New Bloods?
Oh yeah.
Like they were going against the established people like
Yep.
Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, you know, the people that already had money.
Had
and, yeah.
Vampiro
Yeah.
and all them.
And
in
then
it.
the young guys or whatever they had, I think it was, who was it? I'm trying to think. Who was
Mark
it?
Jindrak, Sean O'Hare,
Yeah. Like
Jeff Jarrett.
Chris Canyon,
Chris Cran-
Lance Storm,
Yep.
Booker T,
Yep.
people like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Booker T, so do you remember when Harlem Heat first debuted in WCW?
I don't
And-
remember.
Looking back on it, man,
I don't remember that, but I remember like a lot of their matches, and especially like Scary Sherry being their valet or whatever.
the
Mhm.
good old boy network was definitely showing out when Harlem Heat debuted.
Mm-hmm.
Because do you remember the Colonel?
Yeah,
the Colonel Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was Robert Fuller. He was actually a big time wrestler in Memphis territory.
Yeah.
Well, of course, he came out as a Southern, more or less looked like a plantation owner.
Yeah,
you
I know.
talking his Southern accent. Well, he debuts his new tag team of Kane and Cole, the Harlem Heat. But when they come out, they got chains around their necks.
Oh, hell
I was
no.
like,
What the fuck?
I was like, this is terrible, man.
Oh,
I was like,
my God.
who greenlit this,
Talk-
man?
Talking about some shit that wouldn't fly today. That fucking heartbeat.
I was like,
I know, like, if you go back and look at some of those things, it's like, you're like, how did that make it on TV? Like, literally.
Oh,
like, there's some
God.
things that you look back now and you're just like, how did it
Well,
even
it's like-
remotely make that on TV?
well, and it's like some of these lesser factions. Look at the thing, because I mean, I guess you could, in some way, consider a tag team a faction. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you've got like a manager. It's a group of people that's working towards one goal. But I mean, like, even like some of these, lesser factions, like the Blue World Order and stuff like that, and everything. It just like amazes me. Like, instead, they use a lot of them for comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like some of the things that they did and everything just to be able to get over and stuff was just like
What about the Alliance or whatever? How do you feel about them?
the Alliance.
Remember that with ECW, WCW, when they were going against WWE?
Man, that could have been so
I thought that was
much
massive at the time.
better.
I mean, because you had the three major wrestling organizations going against each other, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, there's no way it can't be great.
And then it wasn't.
And you're right. It was definitely disappointed.
For one, they screwed up. They should have never kept Stone. They should have never made Stone Cold turn heel. You could have turned anybody else, but don't turn him heel. You could have turned the Undertaker because he had, ties to WCW.
Mm-hmm.
You could have turned Triple H. He had ties to WCW. A lot of those guys had ties to WCW, so you could have turned a lot of people. But to turn Stone Cold, he was your big, attraction. If
Yeah.
anybody was going to get him over, it's going to be Stone Cold. I think what they should have done is the invasion happens, they come in and all attack Stone Cold. He has to give up that belt, and now it's who's going to rally us, who's going to bring us, blah blah blah. And they made WCW and the ECW team look so weak. It wasn't. It was just like
Especially when they had like 2-to-1 odds on them and shit
right.
like that.
It was just like like I said, because people were jumping ship from the WWF side over to the ECW / WCW because they had the old connections with them, like the Dudleys and
Right.
But it did help a little bit because, you know, you got to see the Rob Van Dams, you got to see the Booker T's, people like that. Kind of, I think they got their shot more in the WWE, in my opinion.
I just wish they had. I wish Vince didn't have such a hard on for trying to destroy everything that isn't WWE. You know what I'm saying? I get the whole WCW tried to put me out of business and you taking that personal, but at the end of the day, you just put them out of business. Be happy about it. You got their product. Now you can do what you do best with what they couldn't do, and now you can show them how they should have done it.
I think it's the whole killer mentality. I think his mentality to get there is what got him there, and then once he got there, he never changed. He was like, yeah, I might have won, but I'm still going to fucking hammer these motherfuckers. Like, I know we're winning by 30, but I want to win by 100 and shit.
Yeah. It was just no stop.
Yeah, exactly. Ego, you know what I'm saying?
I bought it, now I'm killing it.
Exactly.
And it's just sad because like there was so much stuff that could have, like there were so many factions that could have come over from WCW, and I mean there were a few that did, like the NWO and stuff like that. But there were so many factions that could have come over from WCW and done, you know what I'm saying, so much good for WWE, but just it was all about just burying it. Like I tell you another faction that I really like too is and this will be my final take as far as like a kind of a dark horse faction that nobody really thinks about that I thought was one chock full of talent and two could have, just like Evolution and Legacy, could have run rampant for about 2 or 3 years was the Radicals with Benoit, Saturn, Malenko, and Guerrero.
I agree.
When they jumped ship.
Oh yeah, they were all
100%.
very talented people. Yeah.
I mean that whole team, man. If
So much
Guerrero
talent in
had,
that.
yes, if Guerrero hadn't dislocated his elbow in that first match, and it put him on the shelf and screwed everything up because they had like that 2 out of 3 series where if they won it that they could they got WWE contracts, and if they didn't win that they didn't, well, what was it that ended up happening, like where he dislocated his elbow, he just rolled over and told somebody to pin him, but it was Guerrero and his team that was supposed to go over that match, but he just hurried up and ended it and was like, screw it, we'll deal with what we got to deal with.
See, but I don't think all of them exactly had the right mic skills to get over. I think some of them could have, but I don't think, like, I don't see Chris Benoit being great on the mic. I don't see Perry Saturn being great on the mic. You know, the whole crazy shit didn't really
I don't
work
think
for
he had
me.
enough time to learn
No.
to be great on the mic.
Like maybe the other ones, it might have been a different story, but
I think Eddie could have carried them with the interviews, and then like the others just kind of like jumped
Learn
in
from
with
it.
a saying real quick, and kind of like the old days of doing it and everything. But like, I don't know. I see what you're saying. They could have used a mouthpiece, somebody like a
I think
Hangman
Eddie was
or-
good for what I think Eddie was fine. Like I said, as far as being able to talk, because back when he was the light, lie, cheat, and steal, and when he was the world champion shit, he'd come in the low
Latino
rider, Latino heat and shit, all that. Like, of course, unfortunately he died or whatever, but he was definitely a star
He was a star.
in that group. But I don't know if I think the other ones were like really good, especially Benoit. But I don't know if they could ever had the same mic skills as
no,
say
no.
Eddie would have been. It's like I said, as far as wrestling, Dean Malenko and all them, man,
Absolutely.
Oh, hands
best,
down.
Some of the
some of the
greatest.
best, some of the best when it comes to it. Mic skills, and because nowadays you got to have both. I mean, like you could be a shitty wrestler, like but if you're great on the mic, like Hogan.
Yeah.
I mean, because he had a leg drop and a fucking elbow or something like that. He couldn't wrestle worth shit, but like I said, as far as mic skills, he was
As
awesome.
long as you can talk, you can get through it.
Exactly.
I feel like talking, like the promos are like literally 75%.
Because that's what
of it.
hooks you right there. You know what I'm saying? You hear
without the emotion, you don't
Mhm.
want. What's the point of the rest?
exactly.
I can get by a character in a movie just from his dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Do I look at Al Pacino in a lot of movies and think he's a badass? No. But do I watch Al Pacino in Scarface and think he's a badass? Yeah, because of his dialogue.
Yeah.
Just the way he talks and his demeanor. So if you can, just like with wrestling, if you can go out there and play that character and give that demeanor off, then you're gonna, you're gonna completely win the crowd over.
But like I said, the fans got to believe in that person. They got to be like, okay, this is believable. But I mean, like I said, there was a lot of factions and stuff, and I mean, we could go on and shit. When
There's
shit.
tons. That's it. You could do this for, days and days
because
on
we
a
haven't
faction.
touched on, of course, the corporation, the Ministry of Darkness, the corporate ministry, if you want to put them together.
Plus newer
and shit.
factions too. You have
The Shield, like we barely touched on Evolution.
Chase U, the D'Angelo family, the Undisputed
Right, all the
Era.
newer factions.
Oh,
that are
yeah,
coming
like I
out
said,
and
I
everything.
mean-
Well, what was it? The entire faction of I don't know how to pronounce it. The Gallius.
Oh, Gallus.
Gallus.
Yeah.
The entire faction was released with that
Yesterday, yeah.
release yesterday.
The
Now,
entire faction.
are
All in
there
one
any-
felt swoop.
Are there any prominent like women factions that we may have missed or whatever?
The only woman faction that I'm aware of is
Bailey's. Or is that even
Oh
still
well,
going on?
yeah, it's kind of a thing, but like, they say it, but Asuka's injured, still on injured list, and then they released Dakota Kai, and then Kairi
yeah.
Sane. I haven't seen her in a while. I'm pretty sure she was injured too. The only one that's left is Io Sky, and she holds the title right now. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's really going to be a faction anymore.
Yeah, they probably.
Unfortunately, I feel like they should have another women's faction, but
I would
women don't get along
love.
very well.
I would love to see like a swerve with the women, and like because see, here's the thing too. Before we get to our final thoughts and everything on this, Selena Vega.
Love her.
She.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me
Love
too.
her.
Josh knows I'm a sucker for them Puerto Rican women.
Well, she's talented in the
You
ring
got
too.
you in
Yes,
trouble.
yes, she is. She's very talented. She really is. But I haven't seen it, but somebody said that she done like a nod to Sasha Banks last night on SmackDown.
I missed that.
So
I mean, I watched the match.
is she
retained it.
saying that Sasha's coming back?
I don't think so. Sasha's made it,
She's in Hollywood right
Mercedes
now.
has made it clear that she's not coming back to WWE. Though I would love to see another Sasha Banks run. I loved her.
But what's the one rule that in wrestling that what everybody say about CM Punk? He'd never be back. But what's the one thing? You never say never.
Never say never.
Money talks.
That is true.
And if they look at her and say, and see, here's what I think would be cool, is you got Bailey,
Love
you
Bayley.
got Charlotte, Becky just came back.
The 4 Horsewomen again.
What if the fourth person isn't a fourth person? What if it's the 4 horsewomen? And they bring it all back together
That'd
and
be
try
cool.
to take over kind of like as a woman faction.
I
and
would love to
everything
see
too.
another
that'd
women's
be nice.
faction.
I just
over.
they do need a swerve like that. They need a good NWO type storyline for the women like
the
that.
women?
Yeah, for the that's a threat to all the women on the roster. You know what I'm saying? These women are coming in and taking over. Blah blah blah, that type of thing.
Right.
Well, guys, we are down to the last few minutes. So, any final thoughts on the factions that we've mentioned, haven't mentioned?
Almost like I said before, like I said, we could go like another episode on this. I feel like we've only touched. I mean, mostly WWE. I mean, there's
Right.
definitely some WW or WCW factions that I want to touch on. Like
New
at another
Japan,
time.
Bullet Club.
New Japan Bullet Club also, like I said.
Mhm.
I mean, and so hopefully, like I said, we can do another one of these. I mean, my
Oh,
closing
yeah.
thoughts.
Not only that, but who knows? I mean, maybe we'll have a guest on or something that just wants to talk factions. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know when this subject's going to come up again. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I think we covered it.
Well, guys, if there's nothing else, I can't think of anything else. We hope you've enjoyed the episode. Like we say, in the comments, leave us some comments and suggestions. Let us know what your favorite factions are of all time, what you think the most influential factions of all time are, and follow,
Ones that
share, and all that stuff with our socials. Headlocks, Heels, and Havoc, Wrestling Unscripted on all social media platforms. We're getting them up and going for you. Just keep following us. So we appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next time. The referee just counted that 3.